All right. Let's call this meeting to order, please. I'll give him a chance. Let's call this meeting to order, please. Roll call, Becky.
Kurt Smith, Mr. Smith is on vacation. Gustafson.
Here.
Perry.
Here. Here.
Brabner. Here. Mayor.
I am here. Our invocation and pledge will be led by our city attorney, Mr. David Connor. If you please rise.
Father, we thank you for everything you give us, and we thank you for a beautiful day like we've had today to show us what you can do in your artwork, in your control over creation, Father. We ask that you bless each person that's here today. We thank for all the citizens that are here to be heard. And Father, we ask that you give the city council and mayor wisdom in making the decisions that are made tonight. And we thank you for the freedoms that we exercise and the ability to speak freely and be heard in our country. That's a right that I think we take for granted way too often. And Father, we thank you for those people that protect those freedoms that we're exercising here tonight as well. And we ask that in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Wow, that sounded good.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. I ask for the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting, work session May 19, 2025, the regular meeting May 19, 2025, and the work session on May 20th, 2025. Any corrections? If not, they stand approved as written. Committee reports. Ms. Gaines?
No report, sir.
Mr. Connor?
No further reports, Mayor.
Chief Barber?
Yes, sir. A few weeks ago, we had our annual awards banquet where we talk about all the good things our men and women do each year. We recognize them for what they did for 2024, but I do want to take this opportunity, since we have a nice crowd here, to brag on the officers for today. Around 11 o'clock this morning, there was a bank robbery in Bay Minette. Good coordination, a great eyewitness. They gave out a lot of information that went out to the officers in the region, basically able to ascertain he's probably going back to Mobile. And the officers sat up knowing that a lot of times they like going the causeway back to Mobile. And so right here in front of Rouse's, we spotted the vehicle. He was pulled over in front of Tyndall Credit Union, taken in custody within 30 minutes of the bank robbery, and handed over to Bay Minette Police Department. So did want to take the opportunity to brag on the officers. Good police work, good communication between all the agencies that were involved. Bank robberies are not something that occur as often as they used to. And so a good day for all of law enforcement. Nobody was injured, and he was taken in custody. So.
Okay. Thank you, Chief, and certainly thank the officers that were involved in that. The professionalism that y'all show on a daily basis is greatly appreciated by the citizens and certainly by the council. Thank you so much. Chief, you?
Just want to remind everybody that next week we will have our kids' safety camp at the fire station. We have 40 first through sixth graders that will be attending from 8:30 to 12 each day. And each day they'll be learning a different component about the fire department and our partner agencies. So feel free to stop by.
Thank you, Chief. I know y'all do this annually, and it's an event that sells out quick, so we thank you for what you do. Mr. Raines, you have anything tonight? Carl, anything on the junior council?
We just have finally selected our next group of kids that will come through, and we've got another outstanding group of kids that will be coming through the Junior City Council, learning how their city works through the first half of the year, and then we transition to showing them how that city works within the constructs of the state legislation. So you've got a good group of kids showing up, and can't wait to work with them and get started.
Mary, you got anything for the 3-Meal Commission?
Yes. Because there's a big audience here, I'm excited to tell you all the good things about the 3-Meal. The 3-Meal is the additional tax that our city voted several years back, and the money goes directly to our schools for academics and arts and life skills, I believe it is. This year, we are the only feeder pattern in Baldwin County. All of our schools achieved an A on all the reporting that they got from the state testing and everything. So that's a huge plus, and I do believe that that is in large part due to our 3 meal tax money that we're spending. Last week, we had our meeting where we voted on the projects that will be approved for next year, and we voted to spend $1.6 million in our 5 schools. That's 4 elementary schools, can I count? 3 elementary schools, a middle school, and a high school. So we
Were you
also
saying you wouldn't got that A rating earlier?
not with me at the helm. But we do have a little video we want to play for you. We play these each council meeting so that everybody can see some of the good things going on in our schools.
So we went to the conference in Fort Worth in June, and we came back and really hit the ground running. We've been doing the 15-day plan all this year, which isn't, we're not too far into the year, but this whole quarter we've been 15-day planning, and so we don't know yet exactly how it's going to impact scores, but it just seems like it's going to have such a positive
Well,
effect.
and I can already tell you that we're seeing students who typically would have given up after the beginning of the year when it's a really challenging first unit, because we kept spiraling it back and having the intentional interventions and formative assessments that we learned at this training. I'm seeing students really start to master concepts that they would have probably given up on earlier in the year. So I mean, that's really exciting, because it's not just the accelerated students that we're being able to reach more effectively this early in the year, but some of the students that typically might have lost their love for math, because 7th grade math is so challenging at the beginning of the year.
Also, I had a student, I won't give her name, but she was a gifted, very bright student, and she just told me, she had a moment of honesty one day, and she said, you know that we don't like learn this to learn it, right? We learn it for the test, because when I was going back, spiraling back before the ACAP, we do what's called a spiral review, and before we had started in January spiral reviewing, but now what Meredith just alluded to is we spiral reviewed the first unit and the second unit. So when they had missed adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing integers, if they didn't get that the first time, it's still showing back up on the second test and the third test and the fourth test, so that they can't do that just learning it for the test mentality. They have to learn it. That's what makes it a boulder, is that we're guaranteeing that they know it.
I'd like to add one little thing too. At graduation last week or the week before, the program that comes out and you see all the designations beside the students' names. I can remember when we started Spanish Fort High School many, many years ago, there weren't many kids achieving the different levels and getting different accolades. And this year's program, there were very few students that did not have some sort of designation after their names. They're trying harder, they're working harder, and they're being challenged. That's all great for our kids, and it's great for our community. So thank you, and 3 meal does matter.
I'm going to piggyback on Mary, because we just interviewed our junior city council members, and one of them, and there was a really bright kid, very, very bright kid. He actually sat in that meeting and told us that because of what he was given from those 3 meals, that allowed him to get a perfect ACT score. So that is, in essence, setting this kid up to excel, and now he's really just chomping on the bit to get him started on junior city council. But yeah, he told us in that interview meeting that his sole, the thing that helped him most was the benefits that he got from what he received through the 3 meal. So very good. It does matter.
You know, we've been blessed in Spanish Fort for a number of years with outstanding schools, and the additional funding just pushes that a little bit further. Communities are defined by schools. There's absolutely no doubt. Your property values, everything that goes with it. So, you know, what the 3 Mill Committee and the schools are doing is just, it's a wonderful thing for our city, and it creates such a good, vibrant atmosphere to move forward and do things in a positive manner. So we're very proud of that. Anyone else? Is Shanavia here? Yes. There she is. Shanavia, if you'd come forward, Shanavia Spencer is our library director. I didn't see you over there. You were hiding.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you all so much. So we're getting excited. We're geared up and ready for tomorrow for our kickoff to summer reading. This theme this year is Color Our World, and what better way to start it off with than with a glow party? So we're going to have everything in here vibrant and lit up. We're going to have lots of games for everyone, for all the families that attend. And we're going to have also a cool treat for them to beat this heat, because, you know, it gets really warm around here. So at 11 o'clock, we'll have Kona Ice here for everyone as well. A local dance group, Gulf Coast Dance Alliance, they're going to come and do a performance for us. So we're all ready. We're happy. We're enthused about it. So please attend tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Tomorrow at 10 o'clock, we kick off our summer reading program. If you have already registered for summer reading, please come to the library and pick up your bag, and you'll have all your reading challenge papers in it that you need to participate with us, because we have some wonderful prizes. Me and my group, my staff, we've been working really hard, getting some good prizes for everyone for this year. So just a couple of local sponsors who have donated items to the library, if I can share that list with you all. So we have California Dreamin', Big Hit Sport Cards, Premier Movie Theater, Beef O'Brady's, Chick-fil-A, National Maritime Museum, Eastern Shore Lanes, Cracker Barrel, Sonic, Tortuga Mini Golf, Logan's Roadhouse, and Half Shell Oyster. Not to forget our wonderful city clerk for hooking us up with Toomey's, who donated over 500 pieces of glow sticks and necklaces. Now, I've only had one of my board members register, so I have a cool gift for them, their glow stick, and I have one for Becky since she hooked us up with Toomey's. And so we have your glow stick, and you're gonna have your flashing lights for tomorrow as well. But there's still time for the rest of you, okay? So we hope that each and every one of you, all of you here today, are able to join us. It's gonna be a really good time, and we have a great program all summer long, June and July, for all ages, adults down to children, to babies, preschool as well. So we welcome each and every one of you. Please come and use your library. We work really hard on it, so we hope that everybody will take advantage of what we have going on. So let your neighbors and your friends know, because we definitely want to have you a part of our programming. Thank you.
Thank you, Shanavia. I do want to recognize our friends from Westminster. It's always good to have you here. You're such a big part of our community. I've had the pleasure of meeting most of you from my visits over there, having served on the board and those kind of things. It's certainly, we're blessed to have you in our city, and thank you for what y'all do for everybody. I'm opening the floor up to public participation. Now, this is not when we discuss rezoning and those kind of things. There'll be opportunities for that during the public hearing for those ordinances. So open up the floor for public participation. If you'd like to address this council for anything outside of the rezoning, you can come forward now. Would you hit that speak button, please, sir?
Here?
There you go.
Okay. I'm Harry Holloway. I live right down the street on Blakely Way, right in front of the sidewalk bridge. I want to ask the council to consider reevaluating your policy of not mowing in front of the homes that are in subdivisions, or ever how you have that policy written. I've been trying to get a copy of that policy, and Shannon has promised me he's going to email me one. Right now, on one side of my driveway, I have Kogan grass, if you're familiar with that, that's growing up there in the ditch. That cover that I get water from both directions in front of my house has trees growing in it. And Blakely Way is really a county road. It has a 100-foot right-of-way. Most roads have 60 feet. And you're not maintaining the road. If you measure from the center line to my lot, there's 50 feet that actually is a part of that road. And I used to mow that, and I still mow it, but it's very dangerous with all the traffic. The traffic is about 4 or 5 times what it used to be. And if you would mow a little strip there by that cover, that would help a lot, because it's very dangerous to mow that. Now, I've looked up and down the street, and I see other people that have a similar problem. Mine is the worst. But I'm asking the board to review, the council, to review that and just see if there's something you can do. The other issue is there's more traffic, I think, on that road than any other road in Spanish Fort or street, except for the highways. Now, Spanish Fort Estate has a lot of traffic, but it's not through traffic. We get all the through traffic between Highway 225 and Highway 31. And there's a tremendous amount of traffic on that road, and it makes it very difficult to maintain that. But I do not think that I should have to spray the Kogan grass and kill it. I don't really think I should have to dig out the tree that's growing in the cover, because that's your responsibility. And you just need to think about that, because that is a different kind of street. It's not a curb subdivision street like you would find in a lot of the other subdivisions. So I'd appreciate if you consider that. I can follow up with a letter if I need to. And I just think it's something that you may, eventually you're going to have to do more maintenance on that street. Thank you.
Mr. Holloway, Becky, would you get his contact information so we can make sure? I know you have had some conversations with Shannon, and he's getting you some things. So I'd like to have your contact information so we can follow up to make sure things
You want my
are addressed.
contact information?
Yeah, Becky will get it from
I'll
you.
give it to her right here. Yep. Okay, you want to leave this on?
You can cut it off. Or not. Anyone else need to address the council on anything tonight? We'll move to announcements. On June the 7th, 2025, the Haven will host a pet adoption at the City of Spanish Fort Public Works Office, located at 7581 Spanish Fort Boulevard. The event will be from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. and will feature animals offered by the Haven, as well as adoptable strays which may be resident at the city's annual animal holding facility. Please come out and adopt your next pet. I think Westminster could hold a bunch of those animals, Joe. On June 11th, 2025, at 10 a.m., the City of Spanish Fort will be having a grand opening for Loyalty Park, the City of Spanish Fort new dog park located south of Spirit Park and the baseball fields along Huckleberry Lane. The public is invited to come and bring their friendly dogs out to experience what Loyalty Park has to offer. That's June 11th at 10 a.m. The voting district maps have been published. Their upcoming election can now be found under the Municipal Election tab on our website, cityofspanishfort.com. The qualification period for the 2025 City of Spanish Fort municipal elections will begin June 10th and end June the 24th, 2025 at 5 p.m. The municipal elections will be held on Tuesday, August 26th here at the Spanish Fort Community Center on the 26th of August. Is there any old business to come forward to the council tonight? Hearing none, we have the honor of swearing in a new city employee. Becky Gaines will swear in Assistant City Clerk Anita White, who is new with us.
All right, if you will raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Anita W. White,
I, Anita W. White,
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution of the State of Alabama
and the Constitution of the State of Alabama
and the laws thereof,
and the laws thereof,
as long as I am a citizen thereof,
as long as I am a citizen thereof,
and that I will faithfully and honestly,
and that I will faithfully and honestly,
without partiality or prejudice,
without partiality or prejudice,
execute and discharge the duties of the office of Assistant City Clerk
execute and discharge the duties of the office of the Assistant City Clerk
for the City of Spanish Fort, Alabama,
for the city of Spanish Fort, Alabama,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Thank you.
Anita, welcome. We're glad to have you as part of the team. We look forward to many years. Anita is replacing an employee who retired after 27 years, so it's certainly a pleasure to have you on board. All right, we're going to get on the agenda now. First item on the agenda is ordinance number 705, 2025. An ordinance is amending ordinance number 5196 of the City of Spanish Fort, changing zoning classification of certain property located at 7080 Spanish Fort Boulevard from R1 to B3. And before I turn it over to Mr. Connor to explain a little bit, this is the property I think most of y'all are here for, okay? Mr. Connor?
Mayor, this is a proposed ordinance to amend the zoning classification on certain property located at 7080 Spanish Fort Boulevard from R1 Single Family Residential to B3 General Business District. The applicant has requested that the property be rezoned to B3, and the Planning Commission held a public hearing on Monday, May 12, 2025. The ordinance, as drafted for the zoning ordinance, allows the City Council to choose a more restrictive zoning classification. So when the ordinance is published for public hearing, it's published with the classification requested by the property owner. But the Planning Commission, upon holding the public hearing, made a determination that they would recommend that instead of being rezoned to B3, that the City Council consider rezoning it to B2, which is a more restrictive zoning classification and would be the local business district zoning. This property was previously zoned B2, but about a year or so ago, or maybe 2 years ago, but it reverted back to R1 when it was not devoted to a use at that time. So as part of this process, the second step is for this to be subject to a public hearing at the City Council level. And I just want to give a little background to make sure everybody understands the process. For rezoning process, an application is filed by a property owner requesting that the property be rezoned. And by right, you always have a right to petition your government. You have a right to file an application and request that the property be rezoned. Just because you request that the property be rezoned doesn't mean the City Council has to rezone the property, nor does it mean it has to rezone it necessarily to the classification that you request. But you are entitled to due process, and that includes having a public hearing at the Planning Commission level. The Planning Commission makes a recommendation to the City Council, and then the City Council has a public hearing, which the City Council is having tonight. Upon Hearing that, having the public hearing, the city council would make the determination either to approve the rezoning as requested to B3, or if you felt like a more restrictive classification would be appropriate, you can choose a more restrictive classification. In this case, would be B2, B1, or another residential classification. Part of the issues or items or things that are considerations that are given when a rezoning request like this is made is first is what does the comprehensive plan say or show as it relates to this site. The comprehensive plan for this location and much along most of the corridor of Highway 31, at least for the first tier lots, is that if a property owner in certain areas would request that it be rezoned to B2, that would be appropriate. The city made that determination some years ago when the state of Alabama began to do the widening project for 31, and there were condemnations being done, and people were trying to sell property, and all of a sudden they couldn't live at the house that they had for a long time, and they created an opportunity to have local business district, more restricted business districts, offices, those kind of things. And so the comprehensive does show that this future land use for this site would be B2. You also look at the surrounding areas to see if there's been any significant changes. There does not appear to be any significant changes on this site other than consistent with B2 uses in other locations. You also look to see if there are changed circumstances or other things that might make you look at the comprehensive plan or the zoning ordinance to see if that classification is correct. So the main question whenever a zoning question comes up is based on the circumstances, based on the surrounding property, based on the comprehensive plan, and based on where you see this property and how you see this property being used in the future, what is the most appropriate zoning classification for this property? And in this case, the applicant has asked for B3. The Planning Commission has recommended a more restrictive classification, B2, and then, Mayor, after the public hearing and receiving comments, you all will have the right to make the determination as to what is appropriate.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Any discussion from the council prior to open up the public hearing? We'll open up the public hearing. Please come forward, give us your name and address. Hit the speak button for us if you would. There's a lot of folks here, and we're going to limit everybody to 3 minutes, and I'm not going to have a stopwatch and try to stop you, do anything like that. But be conscious of the other people, and if you're repeating the same things that may have already been said, let's sort of expedite it so we can move this forward. So if you would, we'll open up the public hearing. Please come forward.
There we go. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council, for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Joe Meadows, and I'm the Executive Director at Westminster Village, and I'm here speaking on behalf of ACTS Retirement Life Communities, our parent company, and also the Westminster Village community and the residents that live there. A couple of days ago, we were made aware of the request for the zoning change to a B3, and upon reading the information provided by the city and looking at what all could be, what that could be used for business-wise, gave us a lot of concern because it's pretty much wide open for anything, nightclub, liquor store, gas station, it runs the gamut. And it gave us a lot of concern based on our community and what it's there for. The church is our neighbor, and then there's another community, Westminster Gate, also. And we really, after looking at it, I heard you mention B2, which is much better than B3. But we could see B1 possibly would be even a better option to zone that piece of property for use as medical office, insurance, law offices, whatever. We have just a lot of concern with the traffic at that intersection already. I'm sure y'all have seen the school in the mornings with the traffic backing up on 31. There's a lot of emergency vehicles that come in and out for Westminster Village on a regular basis. And then just the aesthetics of it, what Westminster has done, I'm sure you've seen our sign on the corner, you know, we invested $90,000 in that road sign as opposed to a 8x4 sheet of plywood on 4x4s. So we're making an effort to be good stewards in the community, to be what Spanish Fort wants to be. And we really just want some consideration, strong consideration on how this is zoned. and we definitely oppose the B3, and would hope that you would consider maybe B1 or something that's even more restrictive, just to maintain the aesthetics and what all else is going on that intersection right there.
Thank you, Mr. Meadows. And the way this works, we'll hear everyone's comments, and then we'll respond to them back from there, if that's all right. Go ahead, sir.
Button's already on. All right. My name is Randall Pittard. I'm a member of Faith Family Fellowship, also chairman of the Deacons. I'm here on behalf of the members of our church and our Faith Family Preschool, as well as the other folks in the community who have the same concerns. I won't repeat a lot of the things that he just mentioned. We do support the rezoning to B1, preferably. This property is on the corner of our property. As you know, we have our church. We also have a Faith Family Fellowship preschool. And right behind this property, there's a mission house that we have people that live in this house throughout the year when they come back from missions overseas. And like he just mentioned, I mean, we've done a lot of work trying to beautify the church grounds and pretty much everything there. And I mean, again, I don't want to repeat all the things he said. I do appreciate the opportunity to come speak on behalf of our members, but we would rather see it as a B1, something more along that lines than the B2 or B3 zoning. So, thank you.
Sir, can I get your last name? I didn't catch it.
Pittard, Pittard.
Thank you.
What is that tweaking noise?
It sounds like feedback from something.
Now I'm gonna have to be careful with this next guy coming up here. Y'all excuse me if I leave the room for a little while.
Got it now? Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor, Councilman. My name is Walt Crimmins. I'm a resident of Westminster Village. Been there for 2 years, was a resident of Daphne for 35 years before that. And while a resident of Daphne, I served on the Board of Zoning and Adjustment, a couple of tours. And I know it takes some time, some dedication and concern for your city to be sitting where you are. So I'd like to thank you with that. But I'd like to share some of my perspective, having been on the Board of Zoning and Adjustment. As I looked at your chart there of the different zones, one, the property in question is rather small. Two, to go from R1 to B3 would be an enormous jump. An enormous jump. If you couldn't keep it in a residential thing, it would be an enormous jump. And the reason for my saying that is one of the things I learned on the Board of Zoning and Adjustment was consistency in your decisions. You know, something like that, in my mind, looks an awful lot like spot zoning and something that you want to stay away from because it is bordered by churches, residents, and other churches on the other side. So it really come and look like spot zoning, which is something I think you would want to stay away from. And you're setting a precedent, and you need to consider that too. You don't want to open yourself up in such a way that you can't prevent other things sometimes. So I agree with Mr. Joe Meadows and others, maybe B1 at the highest if you can't keep it residential. And thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crimmins.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for having us here at this meeting and be able to participate in this important decision-making process. The pictures that you show on the screen
If you would, sir, please
behind you
give us your name.
are not.
Please give us your name.
You're right. Let me shut down my microphone. I have I have to use my own microphone in order to hear what you're saying and try to keep up with it.
Your name?
That's the difficulty of being senior citizen. My name is Dick Kaiser. I'm kind of a senior citizen at the senior residence, having been there going on 13 years now. Long story, I won't go into it. The pictures behind you do not tell the whole story. This one, for example, is a picture of the front of directly in front of, at the edge of Highway 31, looking toward the vacant lot, okay? Nothing here there to see except it's a vacant lot, correct? The second picture I'll show you, there is a noteworthy thing to be on it. This is also of the lot, but is a picture of the right side taken at a right angle from the center of the lot. You can see in the lower right-hand corner is Westminster Way, okay? That is the direct route to Westminster Village and to the development known as Westminster Gates. This third picture that I'm showing you is taken looking from the vacant lot to the left. And if you notice, there is a building in the background, right in the center of that picture. That building is a structure of the Faith Fellowship Church, which borders on this lot. So B3 has got to be rejected. It has to be rejected. B3, the Fellowship Church, not only a church, it's rather large. It has a huge congregation, and it has a school for children. So that B3 seems to be something that should not be. This picture is taken at the edge of Highway 31, looking in the opposite direction, looking toward the other side of Highway 31. You will notice in the center there is no break in the median, which would have to be put there, or otherwise traffic from 31 could not come in unless, excuse me, you make the entrance Westminster Way. But let me say something. Traffic was Westminster Way. You could not bear the traffic on Westminster Way to get into that piece of property. So not only is the median in the way and there's no break in the median for someone exiting that lot to make a left-hand turn. Also, anybody coming from the north down would have to go to Westminster Way and make a U-turn to enter that lot. One more thing, no break in the median, and if there was a break there in the median, it would be into the left turn lane from 31 to Westminster Way. You've created, if you do that, you create an impossible situation for such things as a B3, fast food, lots of traffic. It's impossible to really efficiently be able to create a B3 here. A B2 would be similar because it is also a fast traffic, fast turnaround zone. B2. The only really acceptable thing under the circumstances of where this lot is located is a B1, which is, as Mr. Meadows specified, something like a professional office, a doctor's office, or an insurance agency, or something of that effect. This is another picture taken to the left, standing at the edge of 31, looking slightly left, and looking directly towards Spanish Fort Elementary School. This, at the intersection, is a formal school crossing. I don't know if you want to subject your children to something like that. This is the same picture taken a little bit further away, that a little further down south, in the south direction of 31, and showing the same picture toward the Spanish Quarters Elementary School and the water tower and the Medigap prescription drug facility on the other side of the street. This is a picture taken facing north on Highway 31 toward Faith Family Church, which is right up the street and is adjacent to this property and borders this property both in the rear of the property as well as the side of the property. And lastly, this is a picture taken from Faith Church looking south on 31. You can't see it, but there's a culvert there too that you'd have to deal with. But this situation is such that a B3 would be impossible for you to deal with. You would have traffic snarled in that area unless you do something with West Westminster Way. Looking at the picture behind you at the current picture, it appears, based on no median, based on no left turn, you have to make a U-turn to get in, the only entrance to this piece of property will be from Westminster Way. And Westminster Way is too small to accept the volume of traffic that a B2 or a B3 demands to have in order to make that business profitable. Thank you very much for your time. These pictures of yours are yours if you would like to have them. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
I think we're still on. Yeah. I'm going to read this. Some of it touched on, but I'm going to try to skip past that. My name is Christine Tsai. I live in Spanish Fort Estates. Been a resident here for a little over 10 years. Love the small town feel of this place. And that's what brings a lot of people here. They come as visitors, and then they come back and move here because it has that feel, that small town welcoming feel. I respectfully request that Ordinance 705-2025 to rezone this property be denied. Rezoning in this location appears to me to be inconsistent with the city's current 25-year comprehensive plan, as I understand it. Secondly, the location presents serious safety concerns for two of our most protected resident classes, and that's our children and our elderly. As you're all familiar, it is at or near that intersection a daycare center, a teen center, an elementary school, and an elder care community. A B3 zoning would bring significantly increased traffic and its associated hazards. This presents an unnecessary exposure to safety concerns for these groups and others. For those in nearby residential areas, there's also the potential for a significant increase in noise pollution. And actually, I went by and took some pictures myself, but I didn't bring them because anybody who's been there can see this. If you pull down Westminster Lane, you'll see to the right, there's that large drainage swale that's on the Westminster property that's handling the water flow as it's going down. But if you look to the subject property, there's a big old rusty drainage pipe coming out of the side of it that's going underneath the road. Right now, we have ground soil that's absorbing the water that hits that property, but it's only an acre. So once you cement it and put concrete and parking lot and everything, that water's got to go somewhere, which tells me the Westminsters might be welcoming more than residents. Finally, B3 zoning is associated with an increased risk of crime as opposed to R1 and B1 and B2. I'd love a B1, but I understand if you have to go B2, but I ask you please, B3 is not appropriate for this location in this community. Thank you for all you do. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Ms. Saya.
Good evening. My name is Richard Metzler. Excuse me. I live in Westminster Village, and what I'm about to present to you has no reflection on Westminster Village. I'm here as an individual presenting this to you. I thought, it's wonderful, by the way, I thought maybe we were going to have a reenactment of the Music Man, or not here tonight, trouble in River City, but anyway. I've listened to a number of people talking about this, and the one thing that seems to be missing is no one has said anything about if there is a zoning change, what the owner intends to do with the piece of ground. Does he want to put a pizza place there? Does he want? I've yet to hear any answer as to what he or she would like to do with this piece of ground. So I ask you, have you had privy to any of that?
We'll respond at the end of all the comments, sir.
Okay. So if as it is, you grant a change in the zoning, what does this do to the property? That property has been sitting there. They've cut the weeds down twice. The termites are eating the house. So the value right now as a residential piece of ground doesn't have a whole lot of value. If you look at it from strictly a value standpoint, the minute you allow this to become B3, I don't think you have to be an expert in real estate to understand you've increased the value of the property extensively. And that's my approach here, and I sincerely would like you to think of that, because if somebody takes that property right now and gets a B3 zoning, they can put that back on the market tomorrow morning and sell it to anybody who wants to put whatever they want on that piece of ground, as long as it conforms to B3. So I think, in fairness to all of us here that live in this community, that if that scenario plays out, you may have another River City here, all right, because people will really be upset. So I'm asking you sincerely to reject the change of zoning until the owner can walk in here and say, this is what I want to put on the piece of ground. If at that time he sells the piece of ground, I think it's incumbent upon the new buyer to go before the planning board and the council and say, this is what I want to put on the ground. And at that point, it is up to you whether you want to approve it or not. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? All right, I'm going to close the public hearing. Any comments from the council? I will say a lot of valid points have been made. There's absolutely no doubt about that. A few of them I wrote a few notes, and I'm sure I'll miss some. You know, as far as the comprehensive plan, this does adhere to the comprehensive plan. We put that plan together in 2010. We're in the process now of putting together the funding. We've got the funding in place to do a new comprehensive plan, but comprehensive plans only last as quick as the city grows around it. So typically the last 25 years, we got 15. So we've got to go forward with that, but it does fit the comprehensive plan. I think it's pretty consistent, not as a B3, but as a B2 up and down that area. And I don't think it's setting the precedent either, because you got B2 all around it. B3, I would have a problem with personally. I can't see a B3 there. As far as the mediums and those things, you know, that's a U.S. highway. ALDOT's not going to allow a medium to be cut to allow to get in there. So anything they put together, regardless of what they plan to put there, there'll be site plans that will come before the Planning Commission that would have to be approved, including handling the drainage, including any of the piping. It will not create additional runoff to Westminster. I can assure you that. That would not be allowed by law. And David, I'm going to ask you to expand a little bit on that, particularly on what's going there portion that was asked at the last question. A very valid point, but we are very limited about what we can ask on some of these kind of things. That's why a more restrictive zoning of B2 is may be in line, because it is consistent with everything we've done up and down 31. David, would you expand?
And Mayor, as you were saying, we put the future land use map up behind you for everybody to see. And so if you'll look at the blue color across the property and look up and down 31, I mentioned to you that some time ago the decision was made that the first tier lots, at a minimum, in most instances, would be subject to rezoning for B2 when we did the future land use plan, whenever that was adopted back in, looks like it was prepared in 2010, so it's been a while. And again, that was in no small part based on the widening of 31 and people needing to maximize and be able to use their property as necessary. There are a few places that are zoned B3, but very few, and most of those were already existing. Because B3 is a much more open use, been very reluctant to do any B3 zoning in areas around Wilson Heights, other residential areas. B2, B1 are much more restrictive. And what I mean by restrictive, if you were to look at the table of permitted uses and compare B2 and B3, there are much less uses that can even be allowed in B2. And if you look at the table and it has an R by the use, R means by right, which means the property owner can do that use by right. P in the table means it has to be can only be done with planning commission approval. Then we have another classification that, because it's a more use that might be more concerning to the public, it has a PC classification, which means not only do you have to get the approval of the planning commission, but you also have to get the approval of the city council. And then we have an S, that's special exception, which means you have to get the approval of the planning commission and the board of adjustment. If you look at the table of permitted uses, B3 has a lot of uses that you can allow by right. B2 has a few uses allowed by right, but most of them are either with planning commission approval, planning commission city council approval, or special exception, which means you'd have to come back and approve things. And this may sound funny, but I'm Baptist, so I'm going to say it. For example, somebody raised the fact that there's a liquor store that could be allowed, but you'd have to have planning commission approval and city council approval. And unless the Baptist church got behind that, it's not likely going to happen there. So it's not likely you're going to see a liquor store on the corner of that place. So if certainly, as the mayor mentioned, and the planning commission felt the same way, that their recommendation was that B3 was too open, B2 would be more appropriate or a more restrictive classification, and they recommended B2. The question came up about, and this is the future land use map, so you can see the corridor in blue was kind of what the city had looked at in the past and have hung with that for rezonings. The question that was asked about the use of the property, and certainly if you have a less restrictive classification on a property, for example, changing from R1 to a business classification, you potentially increase the value of the property if it's located in a place that would provide for that type of business. For example, if you give a rezoning in the wrong place of the county and there's no demand for commercial, it'll just sit there forever. In this location, definitely, if you rezone it to a commercial use, it's going to bring about some interest because that's a commercial corridor in the city of Spanish Fort and always has been. We do ask for property owners to tell us what their plans are and what they plan to use it for. But one of the things I tried to stress a while ago is that when the Planning Commission or the City Council or anybody looking at a rezoning request is you want to know what they plan to do with it, but that's not as important as to what is it consistent with the surrounding areas? Is it consistent with your plan? Because the property owner may need to have a use in B3, and he may say, hey, this is what I want to do, and everybody looks at it and goes, hey, that's great. We would like that. Well, we rezone it and he dies 3 days later, sells it to somebody else. They can do anything in that classification. He's not bound by what he told us. And so we do listen to what they say, but it doesn't necessarily impact the decision. The basic decision is it consistent with the comprehensive plan? Has something changed that you ought to consider changing the comprehensive plan or change the circumstances? And you look at the surrounding areas. And so originally, my recollection was that they were looking at an oil change facility on that site, and that's why they wanted to have B3. And if you go back and look at the Planning Commission hearing, the Planning Commission discussed that, and they felt like that was probably too intense of a use. And then that would be only allowed in B3. And the Planning Commission said, you know, we hear what you're saying, basically, that you want to have that, but they didn't think that was appropriate for that location, and so the Planning Commission recommended B2. So that's an example, and the City Council hasn't voted yet. They ultimately have the authority to make the decision, but that's an example where the applicant has said, I want to do this, and the Planning Commission has said, well, we hear what you want to do, but we don't think that classification is appropriate, so they've recommended a more restrictive classification. But we do ask what they propose to do with it, not that it makes that much difference. I will say one thing that makes a difference. If they tell us they want to do a particular use, and they ask for B3, but that use can be allowed in a more restrictive classification, then we usually drive them to the more restrictive classification because it allows the city to maintain a little more control over what can be done on the site. But just because they ask for a use that fits in that B3 category or whatever category doesn't mean we necessarily give that to them if it's not consistent with the comprehensive plan or the surrounding areas. And so, Mayor, if that covers your question.
Anything from the council? Do I have a motion?
And Mr. Mayor, the motion would be to either approve Ordinance 705 as drafted. If nobody wants to make that motion, then we need to make a motion to amend Ordinance 705 to change the zoning classification from B3 to B2, and then have a vote to approve.
I make a motion we amend Ordinance 705 to a B2 classification.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Gustafson.
Yes.
Perry.
Yes.
Wynn.
Yes.
Brabner.
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, the ordinance is adopted.
So, Mayor, based on that change, based on that change, in the provisions of the ordinance that relate to this being rezoned to B3, which is in Section 1, that would be changed to B2 Local Business District. In Section 2, likewise, the reference to B3 would be changed to B2, so that if you approve this ordinance, it will rezone the property from R1 Single Family Residential to B2 Local Business District, as drafted now with the amendment.
So you saying you need another motion to change it to B?
That amended the ordinance. Now there'd be a motion to approve the ordinance as amended.
Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve Ordinance 705, 2025 as amended.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Gustafson.
Yes.
Perry.
Yes.
Wynn.
Yes.
Brabner.
Yes.
Mayor.
The ordinance is adopted now. All right. And thank you for coming out. It's great to see a good crowd. In fact, when we had our prayer and our Pledge of Allegiance, that was sort of refreshing to hear something other than us talking up here. Thank you so much. We do appreciate it and do appreciate all you do for the community. Moving on the agenda to ordinance number 706, 2025, an ordinance amending ordinance number 5196 of the city of Spanish Fort, Alabama. Mr. Donner?
Mayor, we've had a request from some local businesses to allow for the installation of electric vehicle charging stations to charge electric vehicles in the city. Some communities, including the state of Alabama, based on the increase in demand for electrical vehicles, are coming up with plans to allow, and even in some instances mandate, electrical charging stations during new construction. The Planning Commission is making a recommendation that the City Council adopt this proposed ordinance based on some applications that we have received to install vehicle charging stations at some local restaurants and other locations. This ordinance does not mandate the installation of electric vehicle charging stations, but does allow the property owner to make a determination as to whether or not they want to include vehicle charging stations as a part of their provision of service for their tenants. It also allows individuals to install electric charging stations at their homes, owners of property that's on their homes, but they cannot use that to resell or sell electrical charging stations. All commercial districts, it allows for electrical charging stations adjacent to an accessory use. For example, we do have an application at the Planning Commission to allow for charging stations at the Cracker Barrel restaurant at the Eastern Shore Center. For the existing facilities, they will still be required to maintain their minimum number of parking spaces based on the zoning classification and the use. They can add vehicle charging stations to the site, but they can't take away from the minimum amount of required parking. And then it would also allow for a facility that it only services or allows for vehicle charging, like a gas station allows for gas dispensing. It would allow for electric charging stations in the same types of locations and zoning classifications where you allow fuel gas stations. It also, if you elect to install vehicle charging stations, there are ADA requirements which must be met, and this would be allowed by right in all planning districts, subject to satisfaction of the requirements of this ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Discussion from the council. We'll open up the public hearing. If you'd like to speak on this, please give us your name and address. Public hearing is now open. Public hearing is now closed. Any discussion from the council? Do I have a motion?
Mayor, I would add, we talked about this in the work session. We have several ordinances that are adding sections to Article 7, which is the special provision section of the ordinance. So if someone is inclined to make a motion to approve, I would suggest that that motion to approve state that it will be added to Article 7 special provisions and assigned a section number and numbered accordingly based on available section numbers for that section.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Discussion from the council? Well, do I have a motion noting the article provision as Mr. Connor spoke of?
I make a motion to approve ordinance 706, 2025, as David said.
Second. I was looking for a way to do that.
Discussion?
I'll second that.
Roll call, please.
Gustafson.
Yes.
Perry.
Yes.
Wynn.
Yes.
Brabner. Mayor.
Yes, the ordinance is adopted. We'll have a public hearing on ordinance number 707, 2025, an ordinance amending ordinance number 5196 of the city of Spanish Fort, Alabama. Mr. Connor?
Mayor, ordinance number 707, 2025 establishes a special provision section in the ordinance to allow for temporary uses for construction and equipment and material storage in and along the causeway, Battleship Parkway in the city related to the planning, development, and construction of the I-10 Mobile River Bridge and Bayway Widening Project. This would allow for temporary laydown yards associated with that construction if it meets certain satisfaction, including approval by the Alabama Department of Transportation and or their engineers being necessary for construction. They would have a fixed term, and it would only be able to be used for servicing this project. It would require a bond to be submitted to ensure the restoration of the project upon completion. They would have to have a flood evacuation plan based on named storm or otherwise requirements to remove any items that could be removed prior to the flood. It provides for access to the site, including buffering, fencing, and limitations on exterior lights and signage. And it would also require the property to be removed at the end of the term and at the end of the project.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Discussion from the council?
I believe, David, didn't we have something in there that said that they had to return the site back to its original? Okay, so in other words, you can't just destroy it and then leave it. You have to return it back to its original.
That's correct. Part of the restrictions requires them to document with photographs and other evidence the present existing condition of the property before it begins. And then at the end of the project, they have to restore it back to as good a condition as it was before.
Are we taking those pictures, or are they taking those pictures?
Really and truly, it should be both. They're required to submit them, but our staff should go review and make sure what they've given us is correct.
All right, any further discussion from the council? I'm going to open up the public hearing. Public hearing is now open. Public hearing is now closed. Discussion from the council. I will say this is an ordinance that we need to get in place because we know the bridge is coming. There's certainly going to be some areas that will be needed on the causeway to help with the construction of the Bayway Bridge, Mobile River Bridge, Bayway project. And we'll also have a future ordinance coming that will address some other structures that are coming to us with new bridges along the causeway. Certainly, this will allow for the lay-down yards and these kind of things to happen on a temporary basis with the understanding that it will be put back to the way Mother Nature had it at some point. So, any other discussion on this item? Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to adopt ordinance 707, 2025.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Gustafson.
Yes.
Perry.
Yes.
Wynn.
Yes.
Brabner. Mayor.
Yes, the ordinance is adopted. We'll have another public hearing on ordinance number 708, 2025, an ordinance amending ordinance number 5196 of the city of Spanish Fort, Alabama. Mr. Connor?
Mayor, this is a proposed amendment to the reversionary clause in the zoning ordinance. The Planning Commission forwards a positive recommendation for this amendment. This is the second time this has come up because the City Council had some very good questions regarding retroactive application or how and what properties it would apply to. As you recall, the reversionary clause as amended would apply to all districts 3A, 3B, R3C, R3D, R4, B4, B5, M1, and T1, which are basically the high-density or multifamily residential districts and the higher use, less restrictive commercial districts. Those properties that are rezoned to one of those classifications that are not devoted to that use within a 12-month period, or upon the expiration of an additional 12-month period granted by the City Council upon a showing of good cause, shall revert back to the previous zoning. Other parcels in R1, R2, R3, B1, B2, and B3 would not revert. Any properties that have previously reverted back prior to the passage of this amendment would remain in their capacity the way they are now. They would not be, the reversion would stay back the way it is. Properties that are rezoned in the future would be subject to this, and their reversionary clause would apply accordingly. If a piece of property, for example, that has been rezoned to B1 has not reverted back as of today's date, if this is to pass, then it would not revert because it is one of the classifications that will no longer be subject to the reversionary clause.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Discussion from the council?
I think this one, especially with this reversionary clause, would help us with what we just saw with the parcel that we were just talking about, because now we know it will not revert back to it. However, had we gone forward with a B3, that would not have been something that we could review, whereas B4, B5 would have. So I think it was a good move on the part of this council really to limit it to B2 to give us that ability to look at this reversionary clause going forward.
Any further discussion from the council? Open up public hearing. Public hearing is now open. Public hearing is now closed. Discussion? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Discussion. Roll call?
Gustafson.
Yes.
Perry.
Yes.
Wynn.
Yes.
Brabner. Mayor.
Yes, the ordinance is adopted. I'd like to present Resolution 1517, 2025, a resolution accepting certain streets for maintenance. I believe this is going to be held over. Is that right, Mr. Connor?
Yes, sir, Mayor. This is to approve and accept for maintenance certain streets in Brentwood PUD Phase 4, including Wagner Avenue, Bauer Avenue, and Marcel Boulevard. There's a couple of revisions that remain to be made to the bond regarding the agreement and the streets that are being accepted. So we recommend that this be postponed to the next meeting to allow time for that bond to be corrected.
Thank you, Ms. Connor. Any discussion from the council? Hearing none, this will be on your agenda for June 16th. I'd I'd like to present Resolution 1519, 2025, a resolution to appoint city clerk as a person to prepare the list of qualified voters and to perform all duties otherwise required to be performed by the mayor for the 2025 municipal election in the city of Spanish Fork. Mr. Connor?
Mayor, as you know, the city clerk and the mayor have certain responsibilities that are delegated to them under the state code in dealing with municipal operations. During election years, certain obligations of the mayor under certain circumstances are to be determined or handled by the city clerk, and in accordance with recommendations from the League of Municipalities and the state, it is recommended that Rebecca Gaines, the city clerk, be appointed as the person to prepare the list of qualified voters and other actions to be taken by her and the mayor as it relates to this election.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Discussion from the council? This is an administrative item, so do I have a motion to adopt?
Make a motion to adopt Resolution 1517, 2025.
Second.
I think that's 1519, to make sure we got it right.
Motion 1519, 2025, sorry.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Gustafson. Perry.
Yes.
Wynn. Brabner. Mayor.
Yes, resolution is adopted. We have a request for a 020 restaurant retail liquor license, Happy Sushi SF LLC, doing business as Happy Sushi, 101 Marcella Avenue, Spanish Fort, Alabama, 36527. Mr. Connor?
Mayor, the site plan for Happy Sushi located at 101 Marcella Avenue was previously approved by the Planning Commission. It has been under renovation and is getting close to being ready to open. They've requested the restaurant retail liquor license for that location. The application does appear to be in order.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Discussion? Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the liquor license for Happy Sushi.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Gustafson.
Yes.
Perry.
Yes.
Wynn.
Yes.
Brabner. Mayor.
Yes, the request is approved. Any other business come before the council tonight? Do I have a motion to adjourn? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.